Hi, my name is Ian Finkston, and I'm happy to share with you today the work I've been doing with the Non-Indigenous Aquatic Species Database since about 2017, and that's called Flood and Storm Tracker Maps. And these maps are made available to the general public and various stakeholders involved with invasive species management. And the rationale for creating these maps is to show the potential movement of aquatic non-native species across a flood-impacted area in the landscape. And the NAS database has that ability to do that because we have many years and geographic locations of these aquatic non-native occurrences available to the public already. So it was a matter of finding out, is there interest to show this to the general public, and how are we able to do this? So you can see from some of these examples in this slide here of some species that are moving and potentially move every time there is a major flood, be from walking catfish all the way to floating plants such as water hyacinth. And like I mentioned, we started the FAST maps in 2017 with Hurricane Harvey in southeast Texas, which caused a substantial amount of flooding across the landscape for a long enough duration for there to be potential movement of species across one watershed to another. And so, for example, you have here Wharton, Texas, along the Colorado River that was completely inundated and actually connected one watershed of the Colorado River into another of the San Bernard River for a long enough duration to be monitored and find that there was actually movement of water and potentially species across one watershed to another. So for getting an idea of how we would show this across a landscape and actually get a nice model of where species might move due to the hydrology in the landscape, we came up with 3 different flood situations to track species movement. And so, for example, here is the Colorado River and the Brazos River in southeast Texas. One way of movement is during a storm surge event, so water rushing inland, creating upstream flow and then residual downstream flow, and also across the coastline as the coastlines become inundated and connected. Another form of the flooding is longitudinal flooding, which is basically just high flow events downstream from headwaters. And then the third one that seems to be of interest that I mentioned earlier is this lateral flooding, or these hydrologic connections that are more temporal and not consistent in the landscape in the hydrology. When we put everything together, the information that we're able to collect from our database, from water scientists across the area that are measuring the hydrology, like via high water marks and storm tide sensors, we can get an idea of where there might be potential movement across the impacted area, the flood impacted area. And here's one example map showing Hurricane Harvey, which again occurred in 2017. And the connection points across watersheds here are these light blue dots that you see along the borders of the various Huck drainage lines. The dark dots are the occurrences of the species of interest. Here I showcase Salvinia molesta, which is an invasive species in the southeast, in Louisiana and Texas, particularly a priority species, and also a federally prohibited species as well. So you can see from the drainage occurrences, the occurrence where the Salvinia is found on these drainages, there's a lighter green indicating where it's present already, and then the darker green indicating where it potentially could spread due to a neighboring population and those connections across the 2 drainages in the landscape in the flood impacted area. And this is just one example of many of the storm maps that we've created, these FAST maps that we've created since 2017 for most major storms all the way up to last year's Hurricane Ian. And you can find out more of that information on our website, nas.er.usgs.gov/viewer/FAST flooding. Thank you so much.